See that idiot in the black and white shoes down here? He just walking towards me. Okay. As soon as I put up a fucking video app, he turned directly around. How many times that's happened? As soon as I go to make a video, whoever's propped up there stops doing what they're fucking doing, or they turn around and create a distance between me and them. So the internet is suggesting that the satanic rats who are fucking hosting people they're using are giving these people codes. Like if your phone vibrates in your pocket once or twice, turn around and do something. If it vibrates 3 times, stop doing what you're doing concerning like verbal harassment. If it vibrates 4 times, re-escalate what you're saying. Okay? So one of the biggest things that's being propped up around me, which I got 8,700 audio files, is where they prop up assholes to say suck dick and gangstalk. Lately they've been saying SD without saying gangstalk, so it doesn't look outwardly apparent that the SD is being said because of gangstalking crimes. Now, about 15 minutes ago, I made a statement in my running digital tape recorder that I was getting ready to make a video, and I said, let's see if anything gets propped up in the background that's loud and disruptive. And I just got done taking care of a couple of tasks on my phone, and I was literally about 30 seconds away from starting the video, and then he magically appears. And here comes another one they've used in the past as well. And then here on the bike. Now that his little skinky ass has been used on about 7 occasions here. And one of the things that Brian 2 discusses in his exposures, go to Google and type in Brian 2 electronic harassment. Is that when they, here's another one they just started using today. That's another role-playing bullshit using lowlifes and scumbags. So I'm not gonna say what that little fucking freak was doing about a half hour ago. What I do is I've been trying to get myself back into the pattern of intentionally not verbalizing things that people are intentionally told to do when they get propped up. And the reason why I decided to start utilizing that new technique is because Brian 2 and his exposures on YouTube and Google is saying that that's one of the main reasons why props are propped up to bait you to verbally talk about it. Okay, one of the main reasons why they keep propping up the same exact identical psychos that they've used on previous dates is because they know you're going to identify them mentally. And since brain entrainment is the goal concerning the great majority of the props propped up through the community-based gang stalking, they know that you're going to recognize when a person's been used more than once. So then that way when they're re-propped up on subsequent days, they know your brain is going to identify them because they were used on subsequent days. Now, when they're initially used, they will do something that they know you're going to identify to be connected to this crime. That way, on subsequent days, when they're just propped up, it's going to excite that response. That's the true hypothesis. That way, because it's got to do with the technique that's called anchoring and then triggering. First, they anchor the act, anchor the association. That way, on subsequent days, when you are forced to re-see who they used on prior dates, it then triggers the response, and that's what Brian 2 is all over the internet exposing. Now, so I have been really at specific areas where, check this out. You know, I gotta believe this sick shit. Check this out. There's been quite a few occasions where I've ducked into wooded areas, like just off of roads, to take breaks and to sit back, have a cigarette, rest for a while, and so on and so forth. And this is out here in San Diego. So, because I want you to know that when you go to Google and you type in at Google how MTS bus services, which is also connected to the trolley systems out here, which is also MTS, they were building a new trolley line that's been in construction now for about 2.5 years. And the wooded area that I was frequenting quite a bit, let's just say to duck into to rest at, okay? And so it wasn't that far off the road. In fact, a bike lane, so like, let's say, do you see this indentation right here? So let's say that this is the bike lane directly off the road. So you got the bike lane here, and then if you were to and then on this side of the bike lane would be the beginning of the wooded area. So so this is the bike lane, and then this is the wooded area from the bike lane. So if you're from here, from the bike lane, and then if you were to go 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 feet into the wooded area, well, that's basically the amount of distance from the bike lane to the wooded area that I go and sit at, all right? So I'd go and sit at it, and I'd just sit there and I'd smoke a cigarette, and I'd try to relax, enjoy the shade, try to enjoy the peace of mind, just basically to engage in what is called as an exhale and a cognitive reset. Okay, trying to find some peace and solace in my day as a direct result of trying to give myself a mental break from the insanity that's propped up around the Gangstalking victim every day, everywhere they go. Google my statements, baby cakes. Oh, absolutely. So, now, the reason why the MTS, the reason why I brought them up was because if you go to Google, this started, it's 2021 now. So it's now the 7th month of 2021. So let's backtrack. If you went and researched the new MTS trolley system that they're propping up within San Diego County, and it stretches from what the internet is saying, and from what bus drivers have told me, is that this new system that they've been creating for literally the last 2.5 years, it's a multi-billion-dollar project. And it's supposed to run from Old Town Trolley Station up and through La Jolla to UCSD, and I think it just then goes back. It cuts through some business plazas. And we're talking about massive. We're talking about an absolute multi-billion-dollar project. And they also, I guess, had to do some adjustments within Rose Canyon Park. Now, because part of the trolley system already runs within Rose Canyon Park anyways, because of the different connections and places that it goes back and forth to from Old Town, from at least Old Town. So when you research the MTS trolley system, you're going to see it's massive. But the new add-on to the already existing system concerning this big, gigantic, multi-billion-dollar project, it started roughly in I think, late 2017, maybe early 2018. So trust me when I say, when you go to Google and research it, you're going to find it, because it's still going on to this date. It's supposed to be done, I think, around early November of 2021. So when you research this, you're going to see when it started at. And I bet you $10 if you did enough exhaustive and really extensive research into it, you would probably be able to find out the particulars concerning when they were exactly working within Rose Canyon. Now, why is this relative? This is relative because the wooded area I was referring to about 5 minutes ago, it wasn't that far from Interstate 5 off of Gilman Road. Okay? Now, there's an intersection. If you're going towards Interstate 5 and Rose Canyon's right on the other side, there's some intersections over there. Now, so pay attention closely to my statements, because I want you to be able to literally understand how desperate this crime is. Now, when you go to Google and you type in Brian 2 electronic harassment, Brian 2 the 2 hypothesis, his last name is spelled T-E-W, and extensively watches posts on Google and YouTube. When you watch his YouTube videos, you're going to run across a few that are kind of redundant, where he's basically repeating the same dialogue. Still stay with his videos. Still go through his YouTube channels and look to see what videos show him directly talking about remote neural monitoring, CIA mind control. Here he comes back out. Okay. CIA mind control. In fact, one of the best interviews that he's done is you can go to go to YouTube search box and type in Brian 2, T-E-W, Jeff Rentz, R-E-N-S-S-E, Jeff Rentz, Brian 2, Jeff Rentz, CIA mind control and or mind control, remote neural monitoring. The interview is about an hour and 30 minutes long. Okay, and that's a good video to watch for introduction, but I strongly suggest that you go into YouTube and type him in specifically, because he's got his own YouTube channel, and in many of his YouTube videos, he types out a long description of the dialogue that he exposes. And I think he does that for the sake of making sure that you don't miss nothing. And he's also got a Facebook page that breaks it down as well. Now, you should also know that ex-CIA scientist Dr. Robert Duncan is pretty much exposing the same thing, as well as other doctors and scientists and other extremely educated targeted individuals. You should also go to YouTube search box and type in at YouTube search box the YouTube channel A Simulated Reality, the Neuralink, A Simulated Reality, targeted individuals. You're going to learn a lot from that too. A lot of what is exposed within those videos kind of can be synthesized and correlated to many of Brian 2's exposures. So, now, Brian 2 basically talks about, in many of his YouTube exposures, that when the props are propped up through the organized stalking, the props are about intentionally getting your attention. Okay, and so that's massively related to the sensitization technique of gangstalking. And when you extensively research DNLP, dark neurolinguistic programming techniques, the sensitization technique of gangstalking, which can include identical repeated words and phrases, identical repeated sounds, identical repeated physical gestures, identical repeated color coding connected to this satanic crime, you will understand what's going on in the hood. Now, one of the main sub-motives of the community-based harassment has to do with auditory and visual brain entrainment. Okay, let me give you just a real fast example concerning that. Say if you get married on April 1st, 1984, and during your wedding day, your wedding song is Endless Love. So that's April 1st, 1984. 20 years later, you get in your car, you turn on the radio, and Endless Love is playing. That's going to immediately, instantly, stimulate some visual memories from your wedding day. That's because during your wedding day, which was a hallmark of your life, it was a milestone event, your brain stores that event visually and auditorily because it's got a lot of emotion connected to it. Okay? So what happens is when you hear it, it stimulates that residual visual memory and its association to the song. So that's what gangstalking does. Gangstalking intentionally creates intentional negative anchors to something, an act, a type of act even, a word, phrase, color, physical gesture, sound, anything and everything. So, and it's in order to make you sensitive to it. Now, that's usually when the anchor is created, the first initial anchored act, it's usually done through some type of trauma, an assault, a robbery, a rape, an event that causes the victim to be arrested and put in jail, an event that causes the victim to lose money. So it's always the initial act where the anchoring takes place is always connected to a trauma. And then when the trauma is transpiring, they'll prop up the stimuli, something for the victim to see and or hear, and then it's constantly repeated on later dates, just using community members for it. Excuse me. So that's why I brought up the wedding day song, because that's a positive correlation. In gangstalking, they use negative correlations. So say if they're raping a woman and they shove a sock in her mouth, and then as she's being raped, she sees two of the guys that are with the guy who's raping her, they'll intentionally point to her. They're intentionally wearing black and white or red. They'll intentionally repeat, "Oh my God," and suck the SUK. So all these negative things that she's seen as she's experiencing it while she's got a sock shoved in her mouth, these are all negative intentional anchored associations done to a traumatic event. Then on later dates, what they'll do is prop up and use community members to re-prop up things for her to see and or hear that were experienced during that extreme physical assault. As a direct result, what that does is that stimulates the brain back into the disassociated state that was associated to the original event in order to reinforce that entrained pathway to the disassociated state. Absolutely. Because these little psychotic rats, these depraved little demented animals, they already know all this. That is the main identical, purposeful reason of why these things were anchored during the original event. And then what they'll just use is dummies and useful idiots and lowlifes to be re-propped up along that victim's route, so they are forced to then see it when it's repeated. Okay? Because they don't know any better, or they're just idiots. Absolutely. Okay? They're also being entrained themselves. Absolutely. Now, Julian McKinney, in her interview with Greg Shkamansky at YouTube, exposes that the ones who are currently being used are the ones who are currently being nearly choreographed. That's brain mapping. So, to make a long story short, the situation concerning when you duck into a wooded area to be by yourself, to try and escape all the stimuli that these little useful idiots, the ones who are hosting the crime, when they... you can go on ahead, honey, because I got to get over here, okay? Thank you. So, the satanic whores who are hosting this crime, what they do is they know all about the program of gangstalking, and they're the ones who are basically getting the community members to do what they are doing around the victim, concerning these anchored acts. Every time the victim experiences the sound, word, phrase, physical gesture, color coding, that excites the neurally entrained pathways that were created and have original associations to the traumatic event. So you need to research the sensitization method of gangstalking, including double binding, where they'll add additional things onto the original anchored act, sounds, word, phrases, physical gestures, color codings, and then just add further things to them as the crime continues. Like, say if they were saying, "Oh my God," when they were raping her, they'll get 1,000 people along her routes in 1 year to repeat, "Oh my God." Then they'll tell them to, when they keep using people, they'll tell them to say, "Oh my God," and then weird and crazy. And then after she experiences that for a year, they'll then keep using additional people along her routes, and then they'll say, "Oh my God, we're crazy, she sounds effed up." So you see how they build on the original anchored word? Now that's the sensitization method of gangstalking, so research what I've stated. So these satanic mass murdering, totally criminally insane murdering animals who commit this crime, who are also staging the rapes and gang rapes of women and men all over America in the tens of thousands, literally, they know exactly what they're doing. So when I was ducking into these wooded areas that go towards Rose Canyon, there's a massive two-way intersection there off of Gilman Road headed towards Interstate 5. Okay, back in 2018 and 19, I was ducking into that area quite a bit, trying to find places I could go to just to be by myself. So you know what these little satanic bitches were doing concerning the wild animals who are hosting this? Check this out. When that construction was going on, Gilman Road is a very long road. It's at least an eighth to a half a mile long, running between the last intersection. If you were to go up a Gilman Road from Interstate 5 going towards UCSD, when you go from Interstate 5 towards UCSD, you're going to see a road there. Now, that first intersection that you get to, so say if this is the intersection that's right off of Interstate 5, and then going this way is going towards UCSD on Gilman Road, right? So if you're going towards UCSD from those intersections off of Interstate 5, you're going to eventually come to a first side street. Well, between that first side street, which is an intersection there, and the interstate that's right before, which is Interstate 5, that's the entire length of that wooded area I'm referring to. Now that's at least anywhere between an eighth of a mile long and a half a mile long, that whole entire wooded area. So there was one part that I was decking into to try and be by myself. Now, it got so bad concerning the props that they were propping up off of this wooded area. Check this out. Now, remember a few minutes ago I said that they were doing construction over in Rose Canyon related to the still ongoing MTS project that cost tens of billions of dollars. It's been going on for 2.5 years. It's massive. It's massive, and trust me, when you research it, you're going to see how massive it is. Check it out. So part of that project included work being done in Rose Canyon because they were modifying the tracks, okay, in order to, so that it would, whatever enhancements they were doing, so they could add on to, so that when this new project was done, what was needed to be done in Rose Canyon needed to be done because it was literally part of the addendum, the added part. It was what was done in Rose Canyon was part of the project. It was, and I think what they were doing over there was just adding on to the line, or maybe reinforcing it over there. I don't know, because I never really went in and physically looked at it. But trust me when I say they were actually doing work in Rose Canyon related to those trolley tracks that were part of the current project that's still going on, that's been going on for 2.5 years. And it's almost getting ready to be completed now. It's July 2021. It's supposed to be ended somewhere, I think, around November, December 2021. So check this out, why this is important. Now, so I would duck in that wooded area that was right before the intersections, and those intersections are dedicated to getting on and coming off of Interstate 5, right off Gilman Road. Okay? So I duck in there, and sometimes I'd spend, let's just say, at least 45 minutes, an hour and a half. Now, at those time frames, even though this was continuing and going on for quite a while, oh, absolutely, let's just put it to you this way. It was occurring between at least 6:45 a.m. to 7 a.m. to close to 9 a.m. So look at the time gap there. Just do the math, hour and a half, almost 2 hours. So now, when you're going down Gilman Road and you're right before Interstate 5, you're going to see that there's at least 2 lanes going that way towards Interstate 5, and then on the other side of the street, there's at least 2 lanes going this way. Then you got a bike lane on both sides that are adjacent to, the lanes that are closest to the, the curbs. And then you got a middle lane that's right there. Now, the middle lane kind of starts to appear right when you get right by that parking ride that's right by there. That kind of begins right at the end of where La Jolla Hideaway condominiums end at as you're approaching Interstate 5. So there's a left-hand turn lane there. Okay, so it exists for about, let's just say it exists, let's just say that stretch where that left turn lane is, right before you get to Interstate 5, coming from the direction of UCSD going towards Interstate 5, let's say that's about 500 feet. So there's 2 lanes on each side and then a left-hand lane there. So what they were doing is 2 things. They had some signs that they had put up in that left lane in order to make sure that nobody in order to let people know that there's construction ahead. And I guess that's for people that continue to go down past the intersections and go on Colony Drive. Okay, so they were kind of warning people. But check this out. What's the main gist here? I gave you these details because at this time I felt they needed to be made. Because I wanted you to get a clear view and understanding of what the hell was going on and how desperate these psychos are. So check this out. And I got audio files to prove my statements too. So in that short 500 feet of stretch of that left-hand lane that was in between the traffic going towards Interstate 5 and then on the other side the traffic going towards UCSD, they were literally parking trucks to park in that 500 feet gap in that left-hand lane. Trucks that were dedicated to going over to work on that project in Rose Canyon. And I'll tell you how I found out who they were in a minute. So what they were literally doing was propping up these truck drivers who were driving these. They had 2 separate long things that you dump dirt in. These big gigantic things that you carried, that you put dirt in and then carry them away like from a construction site. And each truck had 2 of them. Most trucks, I'd say 98% of all trucks had 2 of them. Some trucks only had 1. Now, they were parking along the whole stretch, though, of Gilman Road on most days. So they were literally going down all the way past to where La Jolla Hideaway condominiums, begin at, coming from UCSD going towards La Jolla, going towards Interstate 5. So if you ever go down Gilman Road and you see where the La Jolla Hideaway condominiums start at, and the 2 condos that are right before the main La Jolla Hideaway condominiums, basically when you start seeing a sidewalk appear coming from UCSD going towards Interstate 5, that's how far down the trucks were parking. Okay? And then trucks were also parking in that left-hand lane, covering the whole entire 500 feet of it. Then the truck drivers were literally getting out of their trucks. They were parked right behind each other in that left-hand lane, getting out of their trucks and then congregating around one truck, and the truck drivers were repeating gangstalk, oh my God, and suck dick. Then they started coming on the fucking property and pulling their dicks out in front of me to take a piss. Let me repeat that. Then they were literally coming on the property and pulling out their dicks to take a piss right in front of me. Then walking back out, standing next to each other again, and repeating Gangstalk, oh my god, suck dick. So that's the same motherfucking shit that I caught here. Okay? That's the same shit that was caught at UCSD, okay, SDSU, okay, Ross Grocery Store, 4 Starbucks, 4 Jack in the Boxes, and everywhere I went. So go to YouTube search box and type in at YouTube search box the following YouTube playlist. M as in Mary, MTS, Gangstalk, oh my god, suck my DSUK. Now that's again related to the sensitization method of gangstalking, repeating words and phrases, and repeating identical words or phrases. Now the repeating of the identical words and phrases is connected to the auditory brain entrainment, which every time the victim hears something being repeated, it stimulates that neural response, and then Brian too says that's for the sake of remote neural monitoring, neural hacking. Because each entrained pathway creates a potentiated frequency output from it, causing it to fire when the stimuli associated to it is presented. Just like when you get in your car 20 years after your wedding day and you hear your wedding song, that immediately stimulates that visual residual memory, and it's got audio attachments to it, the song itself, which is why I brought that up. So if you're at a friggin' wooded area and you're by yourself, how would they know if that's the goal of why people would be propped up to repeat those vile words and phrases, identical vile words and phrases, okay? Then what that does is stimulate the auditory entrained pathway. So how could then remote neural monitoring latch onto you when you hear those types of stimuli? Why were they propping up men to come up and pull out their junk right in front of you? That's the visual entrainment that they were attempting to correlate to the audio stimuli, because the visual prop of them coming on the property and pulling out their junk in front of you to take a piss in front of you is related to one of the words that was said in Gangstalk, oh my god, suck DSUK. They repeat the same sick shit here. Now the little filthy animal that they had propped up within 30 seconds of me going live in this video, he was the same jerk that they had propped up to constantly repeat suck dick and gangstalk 3 visits ago here, non-stop for 7 straight hours. Standing right fucking there. And then the other asshole that rides that fucking bike, he's been caught too. So when you re-prop up somebody that's used on a prior date to do this, they know when you see them, that's going to excite that response. Welcome to the 2 hypotheses. So you see, my fellow American citizens, when we pick this crime apart, we can see the motives for it. Because you ask yourself, and then I'll let you go, do you really believe that it's natural in any social environment for lowlifes and your average everyday citizen? Do you honestly believe that it's natural for people to be propped up around you so they can repeat the same exact identical to a T words and phrases that they believe they got you sensitized to? Do you honestly think that's natural for a natural environment? Of course it's not. Anybody with 2 brain cells and who would have the ability to discern reality from a construct, okay? Reality meaning that it doesn't normally happen in your everyday normal social environments. But in gangstalking, they prop up what they do using community member support within making it a construct that they prop up within normal social settings. Now, do you have any idea how many times it's been caught today on my running recording tape recorder that I have running on me at all times? I literally have over 8,700 audio files. So when you bring up that video, that YouTube playlist that is titled M as in Mary, MTS, Gangstalk, oh my god, suck my DSUK, bring those videos up, sit in a quiet room with good headphones on, and what you want to listen for is that shit being said in the background and in the background of the background. And when you bring up the UCSD one that's about 41 seconds long or 39 seconds long, it's about the 4th or 5th video down, the second you press play, you're going to hear it. It's said, Gangstalk and oh my god is said within 2 seconds of the beginning of that video. So you're going to be able to see him telling you the truth, because in that playlist alone, which is one of about 40, okay, you're going to see it happening everywhere. Arby's, SDSU, USD, UCSD, okay, Starbucks, Ralph's, Vaughn's, the whole 9 yards. So when I would bring up my Periscope accounts at that wooded area where they were propping up the construction men to do that, okay, as soon as I brought up my phone to bring up Periscope, their behavior got immediately adjusted. which meant that the psychotic rats who were hosting the shit and using them is the same psychotic rat that was monitoring my phone. And then when they see I'm bringing up Periscope, they contact them by and through either a text message and or communicating with them through a Bluetooth in their ear and or telling them that when their phone vibrates in their pocket, stop immediately what you're doing. When it vibrates 3 times, then do this. When it vibrates 2 times, then do that. When it vibrates 1 time, stop doing what you're doing. When it vibrates 5 times, disappear. Okay, so go to Google and type in cyber surveillance and gang stalking. Absolutely. See, these sick, wild whores that manage this crime, who are the main implicated perpetrators by and through Brian 2? The CIA, the DIA, the DOD, and the NSA. Okay, but you should also know that the DHS, the DOJ, okay, state, county, and local police are the main identified host of this sick bitch crime that's responsible for the rape, the gang rape of tens of thousands of people in this country every single year. Not to mention the torture, the electromagnetic weapons torture, the human trafficking, the burn entrainment connected to it as well, okay, and they're involved in hundreds of illegal criminal motivations. Absolutely. It's a real simple formula. You come into my life, I'm going to expose every single thing I find out about this crime, especially the massively reported implicated ones concerning the host of this crime. Because a wild animal can sit back and make armchair choices about who they're going to target because they already know they can get away with it scot-free because they know this entire program is completely protected. So the way I see it, we don't have a right to our privacy for any victim who's being remotely nearly monitored. Google and research that and you'll understand that. So they don't have a right to their privacy concerning their belief in thinking to themselves that they can sit back and host this sick shit and not be exposed concerning who's massively, widely implicated to be hosting it by tens of thousands of people. Do you really believe that sick, wild animals like this deserve their privacy? Absolutely they don't. Of course not. This gang stalking is directly connected to mass murder, genocide, human trafficking, slavery of all forms, not to mention illegal probate control schemes, racketeering schemes, insurance fraud schemes, torture, murder, rape, gang rape, and everything else. Why the fuck do these assholes think that they honestly believe that they can sit back and host this sick shit and think that they can get away with it, every bit of it, without at least being exposed? I see my fellow victims say the same thing on Twitter every day. Okay? Because a lot of victims are noticing that they experience more brutal retaliation when they expose something. So the victims will literally get online and say, do these wild animals honestly believe that they're going to not expose what they're already enduring by and through letting them know that the retaliation is going to be worse from your average everyday targeting ratio to, okay, the type of brutal torture that you endure right after you expose them. Fuck them. That's the way I see it. Fuck them. Thank you for listening. Everybody have a good day. I'll talk to you later. Stay tuned to this account.